Yes, Philip or Georgiou for fucking ever. Like, dang.
It's back.
Hello, and welcome to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. My name's Larissa Maestro. I'll be your captain today. And with me, I have my number one,
Lauren Lowen, ready to Star Trek some Star Trek.
Star Trekking all the Star Trek. It's our job to Star Trek all the Star Trek.
Well, like how in our last episode you said Nog is just trying to Starfleet so hard. And yeah, we need to use Starfleet in Star Trek as a verb more.
I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, we decided to do a special episode in honor of API Heritage Month. API is sort of a blanket term for, if you're not aware, don't want to assume that you're not aware, but if you're not, API stands for Asian Pacific Islander. It's sort of a blanket term for anyone who identifies as from or descended from people on the Asian continent and from the islands in the Pacific Ocean. So I identify as API, and because it's API Heritage Month this month, we're going to do a special Larissa's favorite Asian characters from Star Trek.
Woo! And just for the record, I'm white as fuck, so... Yeah.
It's cool. None of us get to choose, you know? We don't get to pick. So this is not like a comprehensive list of all the Asian characters that ever existed in Star Trek. This is the ones that are important to me personally and the ones that I think are important to the history of the franchise and maybe the ones that were like breaking the barriers. Obviously, we're going to talk about Sulu, you know, because we have to. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, Sulu is not my favorite Asian on Star Trek. But he is like the most important one. Because it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. So, yeah, we're going to go through this list. These characters are not in any sort of order. I was trying to rank them, and then I was like, why would I do that to my friends? That's not fair to my friends.
Yeah, we haven't done that since MySpace, you know?
Right? That's so rude.
Right? And that was hard enough, so let's not do it here.
No, we don't need to do it. We don't need to do that.
It's Tom, Tom from MySpace, and all these Asian characters. That's what we have. It's hard.
In our top friends. I'm also going to recommend again that anybody listening to this who's interested in this topic, there is actually a podcast called All the Asians on Star Trek. And on it are just any sort of person of Asian descent who had anything to do with anything Star Trek related. And it is so much fun to hear these stories. It's so, so cool. So highly recommend you check out that podcast. But yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and start. I'm going to start with some of my, like, we've already talked about these people or there's not very much material, but I wanted to mention them. Characters.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so we already talked about all of Lower Decks. If you've been listening to our podcast, you know that it was a really big deal to me that Eugene Cordero was voicing a character on Lower Decks. He's Filipino. I am Filipino. I assume that the character of Samantha Rutherford is also Filipino, especially considering
our favorite moment so far, right?
Our favorite moment in the finale of Lower Decks where he says, "Peanut hamper, there are so many lives at stake." Oh my God. I dream about it. It's so beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment. So just a little shout out. Also, he responded to one of our Instagram stories and it made my day. It was so cute.
Yay.
Yay. Also want to mention Soji Asha from Picard. Isa Briones is Filipinx as well. She's half Filipino like I am, so I want to shout out to her. And also they do show her quote unquote mother on like a couple of video calls, and she looks Filipino to me. So it's supposed like the way that she's set up, she's supposed to be she's supposed to look Filipino. Okay, so there's that. Commodore O as well from Picard. I want to shout out Tamlin Tomita, who is an excellent actress. If you've seen Picard, you know that she plays the scary spy who has infiltrated Starfleet Command, and she is so cool and so commanding. She also played the love interest in Karate Kid 2, and they brought her back in Cobra Kai, which I was also very excited about.
Which I didn't know that.
I mean, you know.
Either part of that.
I could do a whole podcast on the problems I have with Cobra Kai. But that's not this podcast.
Join Larissa for her other podcast. Yeah.
My other podcast. Things that are wrong with Cobra Kai. Or where are the Asians on this show? Anyway, now I'm going to dig into my actual list. So maybe we should just go ahead and talk about Sulu first.
Yeah, why not? Oh my God, my phone's going off.
It's okay.
It's the Mario theme. Okay, someone forgot to turn their phone off in class. Sulu, right?
Yeah. So obviously, Sulu is important when you're talking about Asian characters on Star Trek. And there are a lot of reasons why he's important. One of which is the story of why Gene Roddenberry chose to have an Asian character and a Russian character in the main cast of the show. And this was because of political tensions between the United States and Japan and the United States and Russia at the time. So he was making a very bold statement by putting these characters on the show, because what he was saying was these problems are not forever problems.
We're all going to figure out our shit eventually.
Right. And what a beautiful thing, like to purposefully do that. So there's that aspect of it. And then in addition to that, it was important to him that he not make Sulu a character that was specifically from any specific Asian country. So he named the character Sulu after the Sulu Sea in Asia, which touches quite a few Asian countries in the Pacific Ocean, but is not specifically ethnically tied to any country. So in a way, Sulu is supposed to just represent the Asian people, which, you know, but at the same time, what it meant was that we can all relate to him. We can all feel like as Asian Americans, as Asian people, we can all feel like he's ours.
Yeah, so it was meant to be a move to make the character more accessible and a little more vague, rather than an oversimplification of a part of the world, which I think you're trying to get at. Yes,
exactly. And I love that. I love that, like, because of that, Sulu gets to be mine. And it also means that it doesn't really matter what Asian heritage the actor playing Sulu has. So, like, we have George Takei, who has Japanese ancestry, which he's talked about quite a bit. His family was put in Japanese internment camps in the United States. He lived in internment camps as a child. Like, it's huge deal. Like, he's still alive, you guys. He is a person that's alive who was put in a concentration camp as a child in the United States. Things to think about. But then when J.J. Abrams made the reboot movies, they cast John Cho, who is Chinese American. So it's kind of beautiful that, like, you can have sort of a rotating cast of, like, whatever Asian descent actor playing this iconic Asian role. And also, John Cho is hot. I have a huge crush on John Cho. I specifically, in my notes that I sent to Lauren, cited the scene from Star Trek 2009 where they're like on top of that like station and they're fighting those two aliens, and he like whips out a fucking sword that like unfolds and just kicks some ass and then rescues Kirk.
Yeah, after watching that and a lot of Mirror Universe episodes for this podcast episode, I was like, God, there's a lot of blades. You know, we're used to all the little pew pew and stunners and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, we actually got quite a few swords and knives. I just like all these like short range daggers that everyone has.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also like the fact that like, I mean, we just talked about, or last year we talked. Oh my God, what is time, you guys? I'm like, yesterday we talked about, no, this was like a year ago when we talked about Naked Time and Naked Now. And there's, the scene with Sulu shirtless with the fencing sword. I think about that a lot, and I think about how much I love that they gave him a fencing sword instead of like a katana or something.
Oh, yeah, no, very good point.
Like, I love that it was like, he doesn't need to be attached to something Asian all the time. Like, Asians can fence. Asians can get drunk and fence.
Well, and I don't know if you, in your research, if there's any insight into this, but you kind of always hear the story about Whoopi Goldberg talking about, as a child watching Star Trek and seeing Uhura and saying like, there's a black woman on TV and she's not a maid. That's the quote. But I, thinking about it, it must have been important to also see an Asian character at this time on TV, because they and still to this point we're still talking about as a society about having certain peoples of certain races or ethnicities playing certain roles or them being played a certain way. So I imagine too that this must have been very important to see Sulu on screen.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we have a history in the United States of with Asian characters, having them played by white people.
Yes,
so
that too.
This is a huge thing. Like, I mean, for fuck's sake, John Wayne played Genghis Khan in a movie, you guys. Like, this is not a joke. They cast John Wayne as Genghis Khan, and they like put like tape on his face to make his eyes slanted. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. So, I mean, Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's was around this time, was in the 1960s, which is when Star Trek was on TV, like.
Yeah. And let's not even forget, even more recently, like it affected not only our childhood. I mean, do you remember Short Circuit, like Johnny Number 5? And then years later realizing that one actor was actually in brownface the whole time. Yeah. And you're like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
And, we had Johnny Depp playing in The Lone Ranger. He was Tonto.
Yeah, it was Tonto.
Is that the character's name? Yeah. So, like, unfortunately, like, we're still dealing with this.
I know. Tilda Swinton playing the Ancient One. I mean,
like, and then Ghost in the Shell, like ScarJo was
Ghost in the Shell
cast as that. And not that she was necessarily supposed to be Asian, but the idea that it's like, why are we not? Yeah. So this is something we're still dealing with.
We're still dealing with this problem. So to actually see an Asian actor playing an Asian character on the bridge of a starship in the future in the 1960s it's so important. It's
and
so
just be
beautiful.
A person.
And just being a person. Like a person that likes to get drunk and work out. It's and then to see him later in a position of authority, to see him later as the captain of a starship, like all of these things are groundbreaking for Asian actors. Like there's a reason why Sulu is so important to us. And it's so beautiful, especially like to think about it in context now, to think about like, I just realized that like, actually, I'm going to look it up. What year did Breakfast at Tiffany's come out?
Oh,
I mean, I love Audrey Hepburn, you guys, but like, oh my fucking God. Okay, 1961. So it came out earlier in the decade, but it's not like our culture had made any kind of progress during that decade with Asian representation. Just like a few short years before George Takei was cast on Star Trek, Mickey Rooney was playing a Japanese character in a huge, successful Hollywood movie.
Yeah, and basically played him as, if I remember, like a cartoon character.
Oh my God. He stuffed cotton balls in his cheeks.
No.
It is just, it's embarrassing. It's painful. It really hurts, like, deep inside to see it, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah. Like, as someone who was obsessed with National Velvet when I was a kid, and like who loved Mickey Rooney in Pete's Dragon. I loved Mickey Rooney in Pete's Dragon. But then to see him doing that kind of caricature of an Asian person, of a Japanese person, it's so painful. It really hurts. It's just like, ugh. Then thinking about, like, what, 5 years later, George Takei is on television playing an actual Asian person.
Yeah,
on a starship.
And like you said, it's for you, he's not a personal favorite, but you definitely recognize culturally just how impactful that was.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Yeah. So, like, I can say safely that without Sulu, we wouldn't have these other characters that I'm about to talk about.
Well, first of all, I don't want to step on your toes. Are you okay
go ahead.
if I move to, well, it's a question about TNG. I don't know if we're moving along, but I'm definitely kind of.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because I was thinking about that because, he did want, Roddenberry wanted, Japanese character or Asian character, even though at the time, historically, it was because of Japan. Yeah. And then the Russian character, and then, we had basically a very diverse cast. And then I was thinking about how, like, it's kind of interesting when you went to TNG, in the main cast, all you really had was Geordi. I realized Marina Sirtis was, I think, her father's Greek, if I remember.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely had some different, heritage, but still, like, really when it came to race and diversity, you kind of just had Geordi for the main cast. Like, you see a cast picture. And I was like, that's kind of interesting, especially since Roddenberry was still so involved.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who grew up watching TNG and who, like, considers TNG to be, like, my OG.
Yeah, like, that's your jam.
That's my jam. The main cast is pretty white. It's just, it's weird. All of the Asian representation is in sub-characters. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, but we do know that some of those sub characters or secondary characters are on your list.
Yes, and were very, very, very important to me. Yeah, it really does suck, and I wonder why. Like, I haven't, like, gone deep into research about, like, why it ended up the way it did. Like, we all love Brent Spiner, but, like, Data's an android. They could have cast an actor of any kind of background as Data. Like, it didn't have to be a white guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although it does seem like the history of, like, covering actors with makeup and prosthetics and hiding their, like, that's also a problem. And it's funny because when you do think about TOS, like, when you really get all the characters together, it was predominantly white too. They only had two people that were not white, but yeah, just like you would think in the second wave, it would be like even more diverse. And
right.
Yeah.
You think so. I mean, to be honest, at this point, like, we have the most diverse cast is the most recent cast.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Discovery. Like, Discovery has an incredibly diverse cast. Like, the only straight white man on Discovery, in the cast of Discovery, is currently in season 3 is covered in prosthetics.
Oh, is it Doug Jones?
Doug Jones. Which is a beautiful thing, which I love. So, I mean, there has now been more progress, but like, yeah, it's interesting to like go back and really think about it and like look at the cast of Next Gen and think, I mean, there's more Black representation, but one of those Black actors is an alien, you know?
Oh, so, yeah. Exactly. That's a good point. Like, in a way, you're like, Michael Dorn doesn't really count because he's playing a Klingon. And, I've definitely read some interesting perspectives about how, I guess, like, to use those words again, quote, unquote, that doesn't count,
Yeah. Because that's not really Black representation. That's a Black actor playing an alien character.
Yeah. Or like I was reading, I don't know her name very well. Who's the one who plays in the newer movies? Who's the actor who plays Uhura?
Oh, Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, like she's in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And they were like talking about how, again, representation, but like she's covered in green. So it's kind of saying how like when you take actors who are Black or POC and then that happens, it sort of like negates all of that. So that was kind of like an interesting perspective to look.
That is really interesting, and I mean, I get it. But it's also like I still want to see that though.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it kind of goes back to the point we were saying of Lower Decks about you still want to see a cat character can be voiced by anyone.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
Like the default isn't a white person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just about opportunities. You just want the same opportunities for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly. Yeah. So here we are at TNG. So I'm just I'll quickly talk about Alyssa Ogawa. Patty Yasutake. She doesn't do much. She's not really in the show that much, but just seeing her there when I was a kid was such a big deal. Just like, especially now that we've just talked about it, because there were no Asian people in the main cast. So seeing an Asian woman in sickbay with a lot of responsibility, who's like literally in all the episodes she's in, she is Bev's right-hand person.
Yeah, she has responsibilities and she has lines. I mean, she's not just like, yes, doctor, no doctor. Like she actually has full-blown conversations. And again, just to actually experience like an Asian actor in a role like that again was a big deal.
Yes, and she's so sweet and so like adorable and like helpful and lovely and caring and kind, and I just fucking love her so much, and she's so cute. I just thought she was so wonderful, and one of the many reasons why I was like, sickbay is the spot. All the cool ladies are in sickbay. I go to sickbay, I can hang out with Nurse Ogawa, I can hang out with Bev. Like, hell yeah. They've got experiments going. They're growing some kind of like pink mold. Hell yeah, let's check it out.
They have shiny blankets.
Right?
They're set.
So many shiny blankets. All the shiny blankets. There's also in what is that? Is it I forget the name of the episode where
is it Genesis?
Yeah, Genesis.
Yeah, because I was going to bring up that her and her unborn child also like save everyone's ass.
Save the whole ship. Yep,
yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Alyssa. We love you. So there's that. We talked about her a little bit because we covered Lower Decks.
Yes.
The TNG episode Lower Decks. And then I really want to talk about Keiko.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about her a little bit before because we talked about Molly.
And Worf delivering her baby.
Yes, and Worf delivering her baby. So we've had moments where we talked about Keiko, but like I'll just reiterate that like Keiko and Miles were the first couple that I saw on television that looked like my family.
That's so beautiful. And I brought that up too about how they were really the first interracial couple. And what I always appreciated, and I didn't realize until later when I was an adult, but they never made it a huge deal that they were an interracial couple. It was just two people that were married. And as a kid, that was really nice to see. Yeah. Because it was just normal.
Yeah. It wasn't a thing. It was just here they are. that was like so fucking important to me to be able to see myself and my family on my favorite TV show. And especially since, I mean, it's only like recently that like you even see an interracial couple in a commercial for something.
I still remember that shift in culture. And we were, we were definitely on the older side.
Yeah.
But I remember when commercials, they were testing the waters. It would be like a bank commercial or like Cheerios.
Yeah.
And you would get interracial couples, but you could tell, it's funny because like you could tell they were sort of testing the waters. Like, okay, we'll have someone who looks maybe Hispanic and somebody who's Black, or someone who's Asian and, someone who, but it was like, it took a while, I felt like, before they got comfortable enough to be like, we're going to have a white person and a Black person, obviously, in a relationship. But I remember seeing that and being like, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they should have done it a hell of a lot sooner.
But yeah, they should have. Because like, just think about like who you're marketing to. Like, there are so many people that you're not including in your marketing that might want to buy your product. If we're thinking about like, yes, we do live in a capitalist society and like we have to advertise for this shit, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it just like makes sense logically in that sense. But also like media is important. It's an important part of our society. So like I spent most of my life thinking, or not thinking this, but like being told by media that my family was not normal.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, that families don't look like mine. Like real families don't look like this. Like you're different. So it was the feeling of being othered, because all I'm seeing shown in media are families that have 2 white parents and 2 white children, and that never look like my family. So then I turn on fucking Star Trek and I get to see Keiko and Miles, and I get to see Molly, who is like a little me, who is like me. That was like fucking important. So just the fact that existed for me, so cool. Plus then we also got the gift of Keiko's wedding dress and wedding hat.
I love it. I know others don't. I love it.
I have to mention it. You can't mention Keiko without mentioning her wedding outfit. But then the expansion of her character in DS9 was fucking wonderful. The fact that there are lots of like smaller issues. We could get nitpicky, and I could be like, you're a botanist. Why then are you qualified to teach a classroom full of all ages of children? I don't understand.
Moving on.
Yeah. But yeah. The season 1 episode of DS9, In the Hands of the Prophets, where she goes head to head with, at the time, Vedic Wynn. I'm just like, fuck it. Like, yes, Cake. Like, look at you. Like, there, she's strong. She's standing her ground. She is intelligent. She is like, and she's fighting for something that she believes in. And it's beautiful. And she's not like being shown as like a tiger mom. She's not being shown as like a sort of like, there's that stereotype of like an Asian woman being like like an almost like an S&M like stickler, like it's like
it's like in media the cliche is like the Asian woman is either really submissive and kind of falls by the wayside, or is like super aggressive.
Yeah, just to see like an Asian woman who's a fucking person.
Yeah.
Who has like who has agency, and has agency in her relationship with her partner, who has agency in her job. Like, that's so wonderful and so important. Yeah, again, Keiko, fucking yes. I will always just love Rosalind Chow. Also, like every time I see that Rosalind Chow is in something, I'm like, oh, yes. I mean, the first time I ever saw her was on Star Trek, but then she was also in the very incredible and very important movie to AAPI people, The Joy Luck Club, which is like, I mean, if you haven't seen The Joy Luck Club, you should see The Joy Luck Club. But also prepare yourself, because it's really sad.
Oh,
it's really sad, and it's really sad. It's really important. It's about like generational trauma. It's about family. It's about immigrants looking for a better life for their children. It's about like assimilating into white culture. It's about like, it's so important to Asian Americans. And Rosalind Chow is a huge, her moments in Joy Luck Club are some of my favorite. Ooh, I'm going to cry. I'm just like thinking about that scene where she's sitting in the rain and she says, "Don't come near me." Oh my God. Sorry. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. But seriously, Rosalind Chow is one of those actresses that I look at her and I'm like, you could have been like an A-list, like huge star. Like huge star. Like, why not? Because in the 90s, there was room for Lucy Liu.
And that was it.
You know, Lucy Liu and Lisa Ling.
Ooh.
And what do we have? What we don't have anything. We don't have space for anyone else. That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So like Rosalind Chow, who is like not doing big Hollywood blockbusters. She's doing like thoughtful pieces like Joy Luck Club. She's doing Star Trek. She's gorgeous. She's talented. She totally could have been on that path, but like there wasn't space. There wasn't enough space. There's more space now than there was, but like I'm just like, why doesn't everyone know who she is? Like, why? She's so wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So I feel confident. I've talked about Keiko enough. Yeah, Rosalind Chow. Hell fucking yeah. Okay, yeah, moving on.
Who is next?
I'm just going to go in like chronological order now, I guess.
Sounds good. So that puts us with Mr. Harry Kim.
Harry. Oh. Always the ensign, never the lieutenant.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Larissa brought this up, but you know, she's right. The whole time, he's just an ensign.
The whole fucking time. The whole time. What?
I think you said like, you're like, what's with the Asians not getting promoted?
Come
like in a previous episode.
Yes.
Like, holy shit.
Fuck. I mean, all of us that like are in the fandom who like love and have watched every episode of Voyager. All of us are like, what the fuck?
Like at least in the year of hell. Well, I guess I got zipped back, you know, but I'm like, everyone should have been promoted every single day going through that shit.
Right? Everyone is the captain of the ship now.
Right? Yeah.
But like, I mean, they demote and promote Tom. Like Tom gets a promotion and he wasn't even in Starfleet anymore. Like he was just like, what?
I know. I mean, is it really like the nice guy finishes last here?
I mean, kind of, yeah. It's almost like he got forgotten about. He was forgotten about.
Just playing his clarinet in the corner.
Oh, I do love that. I mean, there is like, okay.
Tell us about your love for Harry.
It's undeniable. He's so sweet.
Is he proto Rutherford?
Oh my God, maybe.
To some extent?
Maybe. I wonder if he is. Aw. He's always so preoccupied with his effect on other people. And, you know, like in a way that's like, that can be seen as a symptom of like colonization, of wanting to fit in. And that's something that I relate to, like getting out of people's way, like
can't we all just get along, sort of?
Right. And also like being quiet and not causing problems, which is something that a lot of Asian Americans are taught to do. So like a lot of us, especially second generation, like we're the first generation born in the United States, we're sort of like taught not to make a scene about things. We're sort of taught to like assimilate ourselves and stay out of the way and just be happy with what we have, you know, and not stand up for ourselves. And I see some of that in the character of Harry, but I don't think it was intentionally meant to be seen that way by Asian people. You know what I mean? I think
sure.
It was just like writers who probably weren't Asian that were like, oh, this makes sense for him to do. And maybe like subconsciously writing that into the character because of those stereotypes in our culture. But because of that, it made me like relate really hard to him, you know? Be like, I totally understand. Like, you just want everyone to be happy. You're just trying to mitigate any like conflict situations. You're trying to like think about what other people might want and be there for them. You don't want to like be a problem. You don't want to be seen. Like he's always like, oh, it's okay. Like, no, like, but what if? And I feel that way all the time. I feel like Harry a lot of the time.
Well, and the funny thing is, too, is that if you really look at the way, I mean, it's an ensemble cast, but if you look at the way he pairs with Tom, which they kind of are like the goofus and gallant of Voyager. And like Tom's kind of the asshole of the group, at least at first, you know, to some extent, but very loud. And
he's the frat boy.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing is they're really good friends, or they become really good friends, but they are kind of opposite. So those characteristics also balance the Tom in that sort of dynamic they have as friends. I do have to mention that, you know, Larissa did give me, I asked her to give me some episodes to watch just so when we came into record that I at least was on like the same footing. And I've seen plenty of Harry Kim episodes, but it was wonderful how she delivered me to The Shoot, which I think is season 3.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So I have to bring up this episode because I'm watching it, and it's one I haven't seen in a while. So it's like, oh, and it's a good like Harry Tom episode.
Yeah.
But it is the ultimate scenario of Harry trying to nice his way out of a situation. They are in an alien jail where everyone has like a thing in their head and they're going crazy and basically like destroying each other. And Harry's just still trying to hold on to all his niceties. And at the very end, because he's trying to, there's like this, it's called the chute. And there literally is like a chute where not only the prisoners come down, but the food and everything. And they're trying to get up it.
Yeah. It's like a really big, ugly laundry chute.
Exactly. And he's like, if we just work together. And I mean, literally, they're throwing pipes at him. It is the ultimate, like, let's work together and we could do it. And he gets like smashed. And in the end, it doesn't work. That's what I love is that his let's be friends, guys, and teamwork doesn't work. He gets something slammed into his head. And then in the end, Janeway and Tuvok come down with like phaser rifles or whatever and just, you know, blow shit up. Yeah. It's like, oh, sorry, Harry. And, you know, his thing was more about probably just not killing Tom than rescuing them. But yeah, I thought there was something like sadly appropriate to that.
Yes. I mean, that's why I chose that episode is because it's like, it's so Harry. It's so Harry to be like, but there's good in everyone.
Yes, we can work together.
Yeah, like, deep down, I know that you care about the person next to you and that we can make it work. Like he is so like, and this is like evident in his character too. He is so believes in Starfleet.
Yes.
He's like, yes, like teamwork, we can do it. And that there's something so like lovely and sweet about it. And even though he does sort of become hardened, like there's that one episode where like he goes back in time to like save the, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that one recently.
Yeah, I forget what that one's called, but like old Harry is like he's jaded as fuck, you know, and he's just like, I ruined everything and everything's terrible. But it's also still like there's that idea that like he is responsible for everyone.
Yeah, like he is still tortured by this.
Yes.
You're like, right. That's like ultimate nice guy episode 2.
Yes. I don't know if anybody listening does Enneagram stuff, but Harry Kim is a 2. He is the helper. No question. He is an Enneagram 2. No discussion needed.
I also feel like it's worth to say it that our friend Adrian, who I know listens to this podcast, he has a story about Garrett Wang just meeting him at a convention in Nashville because Adrian used to help out at some of those doing IT, I believe.
Oh, fun.
And so Adrian had to, I think that's it. Adrian, if you're listening and I'm botching the details, sorry. But I do remember accurately that Adrian said that he was kind of responsible for like just being there for when Garrett Wang was like between appearances or something, just they were kind of killing time behind the scenes. And he just said Garrett Wang was generally a pretty cool and nice guy. And I'm like, that sounds about right.
I mean, that checks out for me too. Like I've listened to a few episodes of the Delta Flyers podcast that he does with Robert McNeil.
I didn't know this.
Yes, they're rewatching all of Voyager and talking about it, and it is fucking adorable. It's like really cute, and they get off topic all the time, and they just like talk about random shit, and it's really sweet because they're actually like really good friends.
Oh.
So I've listened to a few of those, and it just seems like, I mean, Garrett Wang just seems like a sweetheart.
Did I say his name wrong?
Oh yeah, it's Wang.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh no.
But he just seems like a really kind guy, and like he really enjoyed his time on Voyager quite a bit. And I know that there was like, I mean, if you've done any research on Voyager, you know that there was like tension between Jerry Ryan and Kate Mulgrew when Jerry Ryan was cast on the show. And that was really there's like a clip of Jerry Ryan and Garrett Wang at a convention talking about that, and Garrett Wang starts crying and talking about like how he wishes that he could have done more to like help that diffuse that situation, and like it was so hard for him to see people being in pain. And it's so like, I'm just like, dude, is he Harry Kim? I mean, like he seems like at least a very emotional person, but a very like emotionally mature person who like really genuinely cares very deeply for his friends and for his coworkers. And it was very like moving, and like Jerry Ryan's like comforting him, and they're like hugging, and it's like so fucking sweet and very like vulnerable and intimate. I was just like, man, I love you, Garrett Wang. I love you. Yes, I love you. And yeah, again, I just like related to Harry so much because I felt, I really felt that way a lot when I was growing up. Like I had to like, just be good, be good.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I understand.
Totally. So yay, Harry.
No.
Oh, Harry.
Oh, Harry.
Oh, Harry. I just want Harry to be happy. Okay, so we can move on now, I think.
Okay, so that puts us, oh man. So we're going to Enterprise.
Here we go. So I got to talk about Hoshi.
I am so curious about, you talking about Hoshi, because again, you finished up Enterprise. It's been a long time for me, and I definitely have thoughts about the episode you gave me, but I'm really curious to hear about your relationship to Hoshi.
Yeah. So I watched Enterprise for the first time. I was in college, I guess. And I was so happy that there was an Asian character on the cast again. Again, I believe she's an ensign the whole fucking time.
Is she? She does have a cool role. Like, I like that she's the linguist.
Yes. I mean, that's my thing about Hoshi, is that she is a fucking genius.
And they need her.
And they really need her. But she's not a genius in the stereotypical, like,
ooh, good point,
Asian child superstar genius kind of way. She is a hardworking, studied person that is not like, she's not overly disciplined, which is something that is a stereotype that's applied to educated Asians regularly. Yeah. She's not a stickler again. Like she's really,
very, I was gonna say it's more like she's just very vital. Like it's not so much like she's a genius and she can figure everything out. But it's just her role as, because they don't have the universal translator really,
like she's
it's
like
still
designing
in infancy. She's extremely vital. It's not like they've just given her like a throwaway role where Yeah, it's like she's kind of necessary for.
Yeah, like she's literally designing the universal translator. Like she's in charge of making the universal translator what it becomes in in the timeline in future Star Trek, what it ends up becoming. And there's also written into her character this love of language, and she's very inspired and interested to learn about language. Like she's not just like, blanket, like I'm good at this and I'm just going to do it a whole lot. It's like, it's actually written into her character that she's passionate about it, which I really appreciate. I feel like in a lot of sci-fi stuff, you get a character that's just like super smart and super good at a thing, but you don't really see passion for that subject written into that character. They're just like, this is what I do and I'm a robot for this thing. And I've never felt that way about Hoshi. Like, I think she wants to do what she's doing and she's really excited about it. Again, there's only a few seasons of Enterprise. There's not a lot of character development for most of the characters on the show. But like, as a young adult, seeing Linda Park on this show was like really cool. And I just think Linda Park is so cool and lovely and sweet, and she's so pretty.
Here's my question.
She's so pretty.
Do you think, I mean, again, yes, Enterprise only lasted so long, and Enterprise probably won't have the longevity, I would say, as the other shows. But do you think especially Hoshi will kind of fall away maybe more? Like, will Hoshi get left behind in 10 years later? Will people still be excited to see Linda Park at a Star Trek convention?
Right.
Or did Enterprise like waste? Because that's what I can't remember is like with what was it on, like 3 or 4 seasons, Enterprise?
I thought it was 3.
Yeah. I mean, but TOS was TOS, but it's not like they had 7 years either. But I often wonder, I'm like, man, unless you were like, unfortunately, the white people in Enterprise, like I feel like Mayweather and Hoshi are going to like, wah.
Yeah. I mean, Mayweather was so underutilized, like.
Especially Travis.
I know. Just like, oh, come on. He's such a cutie pie, and he's he's like talent. Ugh. We can talk about underutilized characters also.
Well, this is okay. But let me ask you about the Hoshi episode you gave me, because I have an interesting theory and I want to know your thoughts on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is an episode where they use the transporter, and again, just like the universal translator, this technology is in its infancy. So Starfleet has approved it, but it's only been used like a couple times in the show up at this point. And there's still a lot of...
They've been using it on cargo and not on people.
Yeah, there's a lot of hesitation to using this for obvious reasons. And so Hoshi and Tucker are on a planet. There's a storm coming, and they say, hey, we got to get you out right now. We have to use the transporter. And Tucker goes first, and then Hoshi goes next. There's a problem with it, and we don't know that until later, but basically it's set up so that you think Hoshi is kind of just being ignored slightly, but it's more that she's starting to go like out of phase, like I guess a different frequency is, for lack of a better term. But part of me is thinking, was Enterprise a smart enough show to do that to Hoshi? Because kind of what you were talking about, because there is that stereotype of especially Asian women being more, fade back into the backdrop and being
invisible,
quiet.
Erased.
Or were they not smart enough and they did it further pushing that stereotype?
That is so interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they were smart enough to be honest.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yes.
Like at the end of the episode, I was thinking, like, this is so curious that they chose the Asian female character to do it from. Now, like a character like Tucker, you would never believe that like people would not notice him when he entered the cafeteria or mess hall. And I realize Hoshi is supposed to be just as a character, like not as loud as like an Archer or a Tucker. But I did think it was interesting that they chose Hoshi for this plot.
Yeah. I mean, I have thought about I thought about that when I chose that episode. I really wanted, because I chose that episode because I wanted to choose an episode that was something that centered her.
Yes, and I'm sure there's not many that are like, it's a Hoshi episode.
There's like the Beauty and the Beast one that's like,
no, thank you. I don't remember that one, but just from you describing it in the past, I'm like, yeah.
No. He's like, stay with me, and I'm lonely, and God.
I'm gonna have to watch this just because now.
It's ridiculous. She's lovely. She's so lovely. But like that episode, I was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you writing another Beauty and the Beast episode for a fucking Rick Berman?
Is that going to be one of our remixes?
One of our remixes is going to be just all the times Rick Berman fucked things up. But yeah, I wanted to center her, but I did think about how it was interesting because now there is so much more talk about the AAPI experience, and I'm glad that there's more talk. I'm sad that it's because there has been such a rise in attacks on our community, but there's now sort of an ongoing public conversation about specifically Asian women's stories being erased and our experiences being erased. So it's interesting to see this episode and think about it as a an expression of that experience.
Yeah.
Because it's not only does she walk through this episode vanishing more and more, then at the end she's told that none of it actually even happened at all. And yeah. So it's interesting, especially in this current context, to even think about like viewing that episode in that way. I think makes it even though that's almost entirely not what the intention was.
I agree.
It feels like, looking at it through our current lens, that's sort of to imagine that it was the intention is kind of a beautiful thing, because a lot of women in my community feel that way a lot of the time. Even when we have an experience, we were told that it didn't happen.
Right.
Nope, it didn't happen. That didn't happen to you. You didn't experience racism. They were just curious. Nope.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's like, whatever. But I think it's interesting to think about it that way. So I'm going to choose to think about it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So who are we on next?
So we have one more to talk about.
Oh.
That's on my list, and that is Philippa Georgiou, played by the inimitable Michelle Yeoh. So when I found out that Michelle Yeoh was going to be on Star Trek, I lost my fucking mind, because I have been a fan of hers for many years. I mean, probably since her crossover to Western cinema, which was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That movie like blew my mind. I've always been a fan of Ang Lee's. I love Sense and Sensibility, but Crouching Tiger is so fucking gorgeous and beautiful, and Michelle Yeoh is so like statuesque and like just magnificent. The way she carries herself, the way that she like,
it's very regal.
The way she's so regal. She's fucking magnificent. And she's like, she did a lot of her own stunts in Crouching Tiger, like, and there's some crazy shit in that movie. She's just so cool, and I just have loved her so much. She was also in Crazy Rich Asians. She plays the matriarch in that movie, and she is dang. As someone who's also read the books, I was like, oh, that's Eleanor right there. So when I found out she was on Star Trek, I was like, this is a fucking dream come true for me. And then she dies in the first episode. And I was like, fuck this show. Fuck this. I was like, how dare you? How dare you do this to me? I was so sad. I was so upset. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this show. But the way they fucking bring her back, man, this is the best mirror universe shit in the whole franchise.
Yeah, we should probably say for this part. I mean, if you haven't seen Discovery yet, you're not going to care for spoilers, but there's definitely spoilers. This is one of the newer shows, so we just want to give you a heads up. Like, we can't, we have to spoil things in order to talk about her.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't seen Discovery, like, and you're like, I don't know if it's worth it. It's worth it. Just watch it. It's great. For me, I got like really deep into it, like season 2. And then season 3 is just a fucking gift. Season 3 of Discovery is a joy and a gift, especially for Michelle Yeoh's character. So I'm not going to say too much about season 3.
It's so funny because I have also seen a handful of Discovery episodes mainly for this podcast. So in a way, it's like, it's also like spoilers between you and me, which is interesting. Like, oh, okay, she's still there.
Yeah. So Captain Philippa Georgiou.
Which, by the way, awesome name. Just going to throw that in there.
Philippa Georgiou. Who has a very close relationship with our main character, our protagonist, Michael Burnham. A very close, very maternal relationship with Michael. She dies as a result of a choice that Michael makes. And it's very difficult emotionally for Michael to like handle the situation, to process the situation. She has a lot of trauma. And then Mirror Universe Philippa Georgiou enters the picture. She is Emperor Philippa Georgiou. She also has a maternal relationship with Mirror Universe Michael Burnham, who she loses. And there's their relationship, like Mirror Georgiou, Emperor Georgiou, and our Michael Burnham from our universe. Their relationship is one of the best parts of Discovery. Like their friendship, the way that they like, the way they interact with each other, the way they come to really care for each other. It is so wonderful. And also, Mirror Georgiou is a fucking badass.
Oh my God.
She is just so in charge. She's just kicking ass left and right. She does not give a fuck.
Can I insert myself real quick?
Yes, please.
As somebody who, like I said, has only seen like maybe 3 episodes, and they're all from season 1. I texted Larissa last night because I was watching this one from Discovery, which is, I think, season 1, episode 12.
Yeah.
And do you want to give the name of that episode?
Vaulting Ambition.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough that the other episode I had to watch for the doctor was very much like right before this. So luckily,
yeah. So
and I've read about Discovery. Like I know some of the big details, at least not of season 3, but of season 1 and 2. So I wasn't completely lost, but it was like last time on Star Trek Discovery, and I text Larissa being like, I've just watched the catch up segment, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But I was actually fine. But at that point, they have entered the Mirror Universe. I want to give props for the costume design. It looks really cool. This Mirror Universe, guys, is not fucking around.
No.
The best scene that stuck with me after this episode, because I know, again, we're not here to talk about the episodes, but I just have to.
Yeah.
What species is Doug Jones' character?
Oh,
Do
shit.
You know?
I need to look. I can't remember the name
That's
right now.
okay. We'll just call him Alien. What's his character's name? Like something of an S?
Saru.
Okay. So there's Doug Jones' alien character, Saru. And Michael comes to see the Emperor.
He's Kelpian.
And, okay. And so after this big celebration where it's like, we found Michael. She's not dead in the Mirror Universe. And she goes to the Emperor. And the Emperor just goes, choose your Kelpin. And there's 3 of them. And one of them is Doug Jones.
It's Saru.
The Mirror Universe equivalent of Saru, who she knows. And so you can tell that Michael's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Am I picking, like, are they going to be my new indentured servant, or like what happens? And so she just picks the one she knows. And then later they're just eating a meal, and the Emperor casually mentions about how like their chefs are the finest when it comes to cooking kelpin. It's so like Michael just picked her friend to eat like one would pick a lobster at a restaurant. And I was like, holy shit. Holy shit. So like that was a genuine moment where it got a big reaction for me. And I'm like, damn, they're not messing around.
They're not fucking around.
And I just have to say what I like about when they enter the mirror universe. And I have to say this too about, because you chose Mirror Mirror for Sulu.
Yeah.
I love the fact that when they actually get in the mirror universe, their first reaction is like something's wrong, but just play along.
Yeah.
Like, play it cool. Everyone from Kirk to them, they just instantly are like, something's wrong, but don't let them know that you're not supposed to be here.
Every single time. They do it in DS9 too.
Yeah, see, I'm really curious now to go back to Deep Space Nine because I like the mirror universe more than I remembered. I usually stay away, but now I'm like, we got to go back to those Deep Space Nine mirror universe episodes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So going back to Georgiou, in my opinion, her character arc from the beginning of season 1, from the beginning of her introduction as Emperor Georgiou through season 3 of Discovery is one of the most interesting and compelling character arcs in the show, period. But also like kind of in Star Trek for me.
Huh. Okay. It might be worth it just to get through 3 seasons, just to witness that firsthand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like her relationship with Michael is like wonderful. The way that it's developed, the way that it's played, the way that the actors interact with each other is so beautiful and moving, like very touching at times. Yeah. So exciting things about Georgiou. Well, I mean, everything about Georgiou is exciting. But there has been talk that she is going to be leading the cast of Section 31, the new show.
As that character?
As Georgiou.
Okay.
And that is so fucking exciting.
But like the Federation?
Yeah.
Georgiou? Okay. So before she dies.
No.
Oh.
No, like Mirror Georgiou.
Oh, okay.
Is going to be Section 31.
She would be cutthroat enough to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Right?
Are they going to have... No, they wouldn't have Sloane, right? No, Sloane wouldn't be around.
No,
sorry,
but that would be really cool though. Like this is like the beginning of Section 31 becoming an entity.
All right, interesting.
Yeah, and
you know what?
I've also I read an interview with Michelle Yeoh where they told her that her character was going to die like right away, and she was like, I don't want to do it then. And they were like, no, but you're coming back. And she was like, oh, I'm coming back. So what happens? And when they told her like what the idea was, she was like, oh, hell yeah. I'm so excited for you to see. I cannot wait to talk about like her story arc with you and like what happens. So cool. It's so exciting. Yeah. Okay, well, those are my Asians that I wanted to discuss.
Is that our episode, Larissa's Asians?
Larissa's Asians. The ones that were important. I mean, honestly, we talked about a lot of them, but as an Asian American fan, all of them are important to me for a lot of reasons. So, and I appreciate what these characters have done for me, what they've done for other people interested in science, other API people interested in science, other API people interested in acting. You know, like showing us that there is, again, and we've said this before, the thing about representation on a show like Star Trek is that they're showing people that there is a place for them in the future. That is no small thing. That is a big deal. So like for me as an API person, like seeing all these API people is so fucking great. I mean, actually in this list that I made, all of these actors with the exception of Michelle Yeoh are Asian American. So they're all American, which is very much a big deal. To be casting like somebody like John Cho, somebody like Garrett Wang, who are like, I grew up in the United States, like I grew up here, I'm American, and casting them as Americans where they're speaking with their natural American accent.
Yes.
They're not pretending to be from the motherland, they're just, Garrett Wang just talking like Garrett Wang. Rosalind Chow just talking like Rosalind Chow.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. And even the first one, George Takei, he's American. Yeah. So these things, I'm just trying to illustrate again how important representation is, and by talking about how important it was to me to see these characters on my favorite shows.
That's great. And Larissa, I'll just say it again, that podcast you recommended, is it All the Asians on Star Trek? Is that?
Yes, it's called All the Asians on Star Trek. All right. Well, you know what? Happy AAPI Heritage Month, you guys.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Yay. Go support an Asian local business in your city. Like, go have some like badass Asian American food this month. Because there's a lot of like really fucking great Asian American food. If you're in Nashville, Mama Yang and daughter, they make these incredible dumplings. Oh my God, they're all handmade and they're so good. Please eat their food. It's so good.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
She can see them, and now Hoshi, it's up to Hoshi to stop the aliens and save Enterprise.
And maybe learn to communicate with them, because that's
what she does.
Thing. No, there are so many lost opportunities on Enterprise. Lost opportunities on Enterprise. Lost opportunities on Enterprise. Lost opportunities.